Okay, so today we are going to talk about the essay. You've already watched the crash course video. We've talked about a little bit in class. I've provided you with some resources outside of class, and you have all written your first essay and sent to me. I have given you feedback on that. So I just kind of want to piggyback off of that and make sure that everybody has a good understanding of what it is that is being asked of you for the HiSET essay. So as you know, the writing portion of the HiSET is the only test that has two parts. So you have a multiple choice portion, and then you'll have an essay portion. So tell me this. You can either put it in the chat, you can just unmute yourself, and just answer this first question. So true or false? The HiSET essay is a position paper, which is sometimes called an argumentative essay, meaning that your task at hand is that you'll be given two different passages to read. And each of these passages are going to represent opposite perspectives of some sort of a controversial issue. And then it will be up to you to read both passages and choose one of the two sides and which you want to develop your essays around supporting. So can somebody either tell me in the chat or unmute yourself? True or false? Is that statement true or false? Number 1 on your screen. True. Yes.
True.
Yes, 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 exactly. Thank you for your participation, and that's exactly right. So for no matter if it's a practice test that we're taking in class, if it is your qualifying test, if it's your official test, no matter what, then your task at hand is going to be that you're given these two different short passages, read each passage, and then decide which side you want to support, and you'll write your essay around supporting that side. Okay, so here we're on to our next multiple choice question. True or false? There are multiple ways that you can approach the essay, but yours truly has provided you with a 4-paragraph formula which you can use to approach any of the essays that you write. Is that true or false? Yes, ma'am. That is a true statement. So, as I have stated before, you could write the essay in 3 paragraphs and still pass. You could write the essay in 5 paragraphs and still pass. The essay responses are going to be as unique as the people submitting them, and that's okay. Give the people what they want. They specifically tell you in their call to action, and they also specifically outline it in the test at a glance exactly what they're looking for, and we have gone over those things. So those are the things that they're looking for. If you can show mastery, hold on a second, I'm going to share my screen real quick. So if we go to our Blackboard page and our Unit 1 introduction, and you'll remember here was the test at a glance. This links you up to the HiSET page. So this will give you the test at a glance information for all of the subjects. You'll have to scroll down a little bit to get to the writing one. But this talks about what they're looking for multiple choice. This talks about what they're looking for the essay question. So if you show mastery of development of a central position or claim, organization of ideas, language facility, and writing conventions in a way that answers all of the questions or checks all of the boxes that they provide for you in your call to action, then that's fine. You can do it in 3 paragraphs. You can do it in 2 paragraphs, or no, probably not 2. You could do it anywhere from 3 to 5 paragraphs, and that would be okay. I have shown you provided you a simple 4-paragraph format that takes the guesswork out of it and helps you to check all of those boxes. So true is the answer to number 2. Okay, so now let's look at number 3, true or false. I have watched the writing HiSET essay crash course video that can be found in the Unit 1 folder on Blackboard. Has everybody watched that video? Gabby says she's watched it many times. Good, that makes me happy. That's what it's there for. Nyree, I know you've watched it. Veronica, I know you've watched it. Prince, I know you've watched it. So that video is there on our Blackboard page and completely outlines this 4-paragraph format that I was talking about and is always there as a resource for you to go back and reference later. Okay, so here is the last one, true or false. You have typed an essay about hard work versus natural talent and sent to page as an attachment in a Word document. And you know what? I'll just take this one for you. The answer is true. Because I know, because you sent it to me and I read it and I'm the one that gave you feedback and sent it back to you. So you've all written at least one essay at this point. Some of you several. Okay, so the HiSET essay, it's a position paper, right? You got to take a position, you got to take a stance, and you've got to develop your essay around that side being the correct side. So true or false? Paragraph 1, which is called your introduction, can be done in 3 sentences. Is that true or false?
True.
True, Veronica, exactly right. True. We'll go over what those 3 sentences consist of here in just a minute. Okay, so the second paragraph, it essentially consists of 3 major things. Not 3 sentences, but 3 major components. Can anybody feel brave, like they want to try to tackle that, what those 3 things? If you're in that second paragraph and you have 3 main objectives, what would they be? Can anybody tell me? Well, we'll go over this in a little bit more detail, but just spoiler alert, the 3 things that you're trying to do in that second paragraph are to state which of the 2 sides it is that you stand on, use evidence from the passages provided to support your claim or to support that side being the better side, and use evidence from your own personal life. So 3 things you're doing there: stating which side it is that you stand on, you're given evidence from the passages to support that side as being the best side, and then lastly, you are using evidence from your own personal life, your own personal experience, your own personal opinions to further support that side. Okay, then we are round in second and we're moving into third. The third paragraph. Any idea, can anybody tell me what your objective is in that third paragraph? And here, I'll give you a hint. In your call to action, it will always say to you, that in this same exact wording, it will always say, remember that every position exists within the context of a larger discussion of the issue. So your essay should, at minimum, acknowledge alternate and/or opposing ideas. So what are you doing in the third paragraph? Anybody? You want to unmute yourself and tell me what you think you're doing in the third paragraph? What's your objective there? Okay, I'll take this one for you, and we'll go into it again in a little bit further detail here in a second. Your third paragraph, you're responding to this call to action where it says, Remember that every position exists within the context of a larger discussion of the issue, so your essay should, at minimum, acknowledge alternate and/or opposing ideas. In this third paragraph, you're going to bring up what the opposing idea is. There's only two sides of this story, and you're going to clearly identify what those two sides are in your introduction. There's one side, which is represented in one of the passages, and there's another side, which is represented in the other passage. Those are the only two arguments or perspectives that you need to worry about dealing with. So one of the two sides you've actually already taken and addressed in that second paragraph. The other side, you're going to acknowledge and discredit or say why they're wrong in the third paragraph. And in your fourth paragraph, we call this your conclusion. So in your fourth paragraph, you're simply restating where it is that you stand and briefly restating why it's better. Short, sweet, to the point. Okay, does anybody have any questions that they would like for me to address about just this brief overview before we go into a little bit more detail about each single section? If you do have questions, yeah.
No question.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Anybody else have questions, or are you ready to move on? Okay, I'm moving on. If you do have questions, just raise your hand. That's fine. All right, so this should look familiar to you. This is, as I have described, this was your first essay that you responded to, that we talked about in class, and then you went and wrote me an essay about this, about the whether or not hard work or natural talent are a better indicator of one's ability to be successful in life. So keep this format in mind, because this same format is essentially what all the essays are going to look like. Okay, so they're obviously going to have different subject matter, but the overall format is going to be similar. So the very first thing that you can expect from all of your essay passages is that you are always going to have like a brief setup describing where the passages came from, so you know what it is that you're about to read in a context. So they give you the context. So for this example, this right up here at the very top, this is where they kind of set up the two passages and give you the context. So in this case, it says, a psychology professor asked students to research how talent and hard work affect success. Then she asked them to state their opinions in an essay, providing support from their research. The excerpts below were taken from 2 of the papers. So that gives you an idea of what it is that you're about to read and where it came from. So that just kind of contextualizes the 2 passages that you're given, and you'll always have something like that. Okay, so then there's always going to be one passage that represents one side of the issue that's being debated. So as you know from this that you already responded to, this first side, they're debating, or they're saying, or they're supporting this idea that you have to have some sort of natural talent in something in order to be successful. So that's their stance, and they've wrote this whole passage supporting that stance. So you'll read that passage and say, okay, all right, I hear you. Then there's always going to be another passage that represents the opposite side of the debate. So in this case, the second passage is saying, no, it doesn't matter if you have natural talent or not in something. What matters is how hard you work. And if you work hard, you'll be successful no matter how much talent you have. So again, if we go back to what our initial passage looked like, we've already reviewed these first 2 parts. So you'll be given something to contextualize the 2 passages. This first passage, which represents one side of the issue, the second passage represents the second side of the issue, and then this bottom part, this is your call to action. So this is where they tell you what it is they want you to go do. So it's always going to be worded in a way that says, write an essay in which you explain your own position on the issue of whether achieving success is more usually a result of talent or a result of hard work. Okay, does anybody remember why I always call this to your attention? that is the way that it is worded. Okay, so the reason why I always want to call to your attention that your first part of your call to action is always going to be worded as write an essay in which you explain your own position on the issue of. Because in your first paragraph or your first sentence in your introduction, then you're going to introduce what is being debated. So you're going to say there's a debate on the issue of. Well, sometimes students have a hard time of articulating what it is. And so if you're having trouble with that, then you can always come back here to this initial call to action on the issue of. Well, it tells you right there what it is that's being debated. So if you can somehow paraphrase that to formulate your initial introduction, then there's a spot for you to get started. And then these are the other things. So remember, we looked at the test at a glance that said that they want you to show that you can develop a central position or claim, that you can organize ideas, that you can show mastery of language facility and writing conventions. So how do you do that? The way that you do that is by checking off all of these boxes. So you check off all these boxes in order to show mastery of those things. So they want you to be sure to use evidence from the passages provided, as well as specific reasons and examples from your own experience. So again, remember, the people who are checking your test, your essay, they recognize that you have no way of knowing or researching what it is that you're going to be writing about before you come and sit down at that test center to write your essay. So they know that, they realize that, but they're still wanting you to show that you can use some sort of resource or citation, some sort of research to support a claim. So the only thing that you have available to you are the passages provided and your own personal experience. And they recognize that. So those are the two things you're going to rely heavily on. Your task at hand is to take a side and support it. Well, what do you use? What weapons do you have to support that? The passages that they've given you and your own personal experience, and that's it. I mean, you can't research it ahead of time. You can't research it. You can't Google it while you're there. So those are the only two things that you have at your disposal to help you fulfill your task at hand. So rely heavily on them. Use them for sure. Call them out by name. The passage titled states this. This shows that my side's correct because. Also, I know this to be true because I experienced it. This is what happened to me. So that you're going to rely heavily on the evidence from the passages as well as your own personal experience to support your position. And then this is what I was talking about earlier with that third paragraph. You got to make sure that you acknowledge what the other side says. So that's what they're asking you to do when they say, remember that every position exists within the context of a larger discussion of the issue. So your essay should, at minimum, acknowledge alternate and/or opposing ideas. Well, what they're saying there is they want you to state what the other side says and say that they're wrong. And then, obviously you want to make sure that after you've completed, that you go back over and that you make sure that you proof it quick. Okay? All right, so the introduction. Now, if this is something that would be helpful for you to have some of the resources available to you that I've already provided via email, or anything that you kind of resonate with that's on Blackboard, or just even a sheet of paper or something, then that's totally fine for you to take notes in that regard. But right now, what I want to do is I want to go back into each element of the essay and show you what it looks like, because y'all have already done it. So I want you to see that what you did, this worked, or maybe if you didn't do so well on that portion, then your classmate maybe did. So I want to show you examples. I think it's important for you to see kind of where the rubber meets the road. So I'm going to show you examples of the things that I'm telling you played out, given those two sets of passages that that were provided for you earlier. So your introduction, remember I said it can be done in 3 things. There's a debate on the issue of what does the first side think, what does the other side think. If you would like to, also in this introduction, go ahead and stake your claim, or after you've said what the 2 sides are, then state which side you stand on. You can do that for sure. You could make it 4 sentences as well. Oh, this should say 3 sentences, not paragraphs. Sorry, that's my bad. Wonder if I could. There we go. So if you want to develop your first paragraph or your introduction in 4 sentences by including where you stand, that's fine. You don't have to. Either way, I would recommend reiterating it as your first sentence to your second paragraph. But here is an example of an introduction that was submitted to me in response to the hard work versus natural talent debate that is beautiful. There's a debate on the issue of whether hard work or natural talent are a better indicator of one's ability to be successful in life. Some say you must have natural talent in order to be successful. Others believe if you work hard, you can achieve anything, no matter if you have talent or not. Perfect. That's great. That's exactly what I'm asking you to do. So the author of this took these 2 passages and responded to this call to action with this introduction. And it's beautiful. They did a great job. That really sets up the reader to know what it is you're talking about. Your introduction is important for it to be strong because it's your first impression with the reader, right? So you want to make sure that you let them know that they're in good hands and that you're an excellent writer and this is going to be a wonderful essay. So you can really set a good stage for yourself, or a good first impression for yourself, by having a strong introduction. And this is an example of a strong introduction in response to those 2 passages that you're already familiar with. Okay, then your second paragraph, this is the body. Okay, so this is really where you're going to earn your keep quite a bit. This second paragraph is for sure going to be your longest paragraph of all of them. So if you keep in mind that your task at hand is to write an essay in which you explain your own position on the issue of whatever it is that's being debated, use evidence from the passage as well as your own personal experience, that's a bulk of what it is that they're looking for. That's what you do here in the second paragraph. So you'll really spend a lot of time developing out this second paragraph. So this is where you're going to state where you stand and why, and you're going to use evidence from the passages as well as your own personal experience to support your claim. So here's just kind of like a bare bones of what that might look like. No matter what set of passages you're responding to, the second paragraph, you can start by saying, I stand with those who say, then insert what one of the 2 sides are that you've introduced in your introduction. The passage titled, go back to whatever passage it is that aligns with your stance and call it out here by name, presents compelling evidence in support of this stance by pointing out that, and then find some sort of evidence from that passage that supports that claim as being correct and insert it here. The same passage also says that the whole entire passage is dedicated to promoting that one side. So there's going to be multiple pieces of evidence in there that you can pull out and cite as coming from that in order to build up your side. The same passage also says, yeah, like I just said, which only further supports the validity of the claim. I also know this to be true because I've experienced it in my own personal life when. So depending on how much detail you're going to go into here with your own personal experience, then this might be a point where you would separate this into a separate paragraph. So if you want to make your second paragraph where you stand and evidence from the passage, and then use another paragraph to just go into detail about what your personal experience is, that's fine. Remember, like I said, you could do this in a few different ways. So you can either, sometimes your personal experience might not be enough or long enough or in enough detail to really warrant another paragraph. But if it is, then do it. That's okay. So here is an actual student response to that second paragraph. I stand with the author of Hard Work Pays Off. As stated in the first paragraph, some people are born with more talent than others. Yet even talented people must hone their skills or those talents will go to waste. Also, in paragraph 2, it tells how a study was done in 1993 that led researchers to believe that when people commit large amounts of time and effort toward a goal, they can be just as successful as those with more talent. As the article points out, this is evidenced when people initially struggle in a job but improve with efforts over time. Beautifully done. Stated where they stood, and then used multiple pieces of evidence from that passage that was provided to them to support that claim. Now, in this case, the piece of personal evidence was pretty lengthy, so they decided to go ahead and break that up into its own paragraph, which is fine. So in this case, the whole essay is going to end up being 5 paragraphs instead of 4. If it is just like 1 or 2 sentences that you could articulate what your personal evidence is, then you could just keep it in that second paragraph and it would be 4 instead of 5. And that's complete. Either way is fine. It just depends on what you're saying. So this was their personal piece of evidence. They say, I also to be true because I've experienced it in my own personal life. I'm not naturally inclined when it comes to math. In fact, I've always struggled with that subject. So when I started the HiSET, I was really scared about my math class. However, I made it a priority to attend class every day, and I spent at least an hour outside of class practicing every day. As a result of my hard work, I was able to pass my math official test. Great, that's perfect, that's excellent. So here is where the student has provided exactly where it is that they stand, which aligns with what was presented in the introduction, and evidence is provided from the passages to support that claim. Furthermore, they give a really, really nice piece of personal experience that they are only showing to support their claim that if you work hard, you're good. Okay, so I want to just take a quick moment right here to stop and check in with anybody. Does anybody have any questions at all about anything that I've talked about so far? Any questions? Any questions?
No.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, great. So we're on to the part where they're saying that, hey, you need to remember that every argument exists within a larger context. So what's the other side say? The beauty of this is that if you laid out your introduction in an organized way, then you know that there's only 2 sides to address here, and one you've already addressed. So you can literally just go back up to your introduction and say, what side have I not addressed? Boom, bring that down to your 3rd paragraph. So no matter what it is, no matter what subject matter it is that you're responding to, no matter if it's a practice test in class, if it's a qualifying test, if it's your official, then you can use this general format to approach the 3rd paragraph. Not everyone agrees with me on this. Others say, and then whatever it is that you didn't address already, bring it down here. After carefully considering all of the evidence, it seems clear they are wrong. Okay, so here is an example of an actual student response to this 3rd paragraph. Not everyone agrees with me on this. The passage titled More Talent, More Success states that having natural talent leads to great success. They are wrong. Having talent does not mean you will succeed. Working hard at anything will get you to your goals no matter your talent. Okay, great. Any questions about the third paragraph? Okay, so now we're bringing it on home with the conclusion. So your conclusion, like I had stated earlier, it's going to be short, sweet, to the point. You're not bringing any new ideas into your conclusion. If you have new ideas to present, do it in your second paragraph or your third paragraph, I guess, depending on what it is. But your final paragraph is your conclusion. And like we've talked about this before, there's some evidence to state that if you simply just start it by saying in conclusion, that is an indicator to the person grading it that you at least have an understanding that this is where a conclusion would go. And since they're looking for an introduction and a conclusion, then that put in conclusion to start this fourth paragraph. And then just restate where you stand and why it's better. And keep in mind that if your task at hand is to try to get someone to see that of these two sides, your side is better, then if the person that's reading this is left with your side being better as the last thing in their mind, then that might show that's a good way to show to reiterate that your point is the best side. So there are actually two student responses here that I thought were both really good, so I'm including both of them. One of them was, in conclusion, talent may be given naturally to some with little practice, but I strongly support that hard work pays off. With my own experience and research into hard work, you are your greatest talent. Just don't give up. That's a great conclusion, in my opinion. And another one, in conclusion, working hard at anything is the way to go. No matter what your talent level is, if you work hard, you will succeed. Again, you'll see that in these conclusions, they've both started with in conclusion and a comma. Put the comma after in conclusion because you're using it as an introductory element. Restated why they stand, and then just briefly restated why it's better. So what does it all look like? Drum roll, please. Ta-da! You put it all together. Here's your final product. And again, in this case, you can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs. I've talked to you mostly about how to do it in 4, but the reason why this one is 5 is because that personal evidence piece was really quite the narrative. It was a little bit longer and it warranted having its own paragraph. So if you're only going to do it in 2 sentences, then you wouldn't need to put a new paragraph. If you're going to do it in 3 to 5, then you would probably want to just start a new paragraph and have that paragraph dedicated just to your own personal experience. But let's take a moment to you just sit back and relax and let me read this beautifully written essay to you. The final product. There's a debate on the issue of whether hard work or natural talent are a better indicator of one's ability to be successful in life. Some say you must have natural talent in order to be successful. Others believe if you work hard, you can achieve anything, no matter if you have talent or not. I stand with the author of Hard Work Pays Off. As stated in the first paragraph, some people are born with more talent than others. Yet, even talented people must hone their skills or those talents will go to waste. Also, in paragraph 2, it tells how a study was done in 1993 that led researchers to believe that when people commit large amounts of time and efforts toward a goal, they can be just as successful as those with more talent. As the article points out, this is evidenced when people initially struggled in a job but improve with efforts over time. I also know this to be true because I've experienced it in my own personal life. I'm not naturally inclined when it comes to math. In fact, I've always struggled with that subject. So when I started the HiSET, I was really scared about my math class. However, I made it a priority to attend class every day and spend at least an hour outside of class practicing every day. As a result of my hard work, I was able to pass my math official test. Not everyone agrees with me on this. The passage titled More Talent, More Success states that having natural talent leads to great success. They are wrong. Having natural talent does not mean you will succeed. Working hard at anything will get you to your goals no matter your talent. In conclusion, working hard at anything is the way to go. No matter what your talent level is, if you work hard, you will succeed. And if you write an essay that looks like this, you will pass. So this is a great final product that has incorporated all of the things that they were looking for in your call to action and has shown mastery of the things that they have identified on the test at a glance as what they're grading on. So I wanted you to see it like this because you have all tried this yourself at this point. So I think that once you've tried it, then I think that sometimes kind of seeing all of the elements come together can kind of give you an idea of, you know, where your strengths and weaknesses lie. So if you haven't already completed the essay portion of the pretest, so you remember the pretest is what's in that introduction unit on Blackboard. I showed it at the beginning here. And most of you have, but some of you I don't think you have. So you'll remember that we wrote that essay about hard work versus natural talent, and then you sent that to me in an email, and then you went to Blackboard and you got started on that pretest. While you were doing the multiple choice portion, I was looking over your essay and giving you feedback. So then I responded to your email with an updated version of your essay that had comments attached to it as feedback for the entire thing. And then you looked that over. We discussed any questions that you had. We went over it together. And then you were able to use that feedback as guidance to go on to part 2 of the pretest. So if you haven't completed both, so by the time you're done with the pretest, you should have sent me 2 essays and the results of your multiple choice. So if you haven't done that, then add that to your to-do list. So maybe you did the multiple choice, but you didn't get around to doing the essay yet, or wherever you're at in the process, then make sure that you add that to your to-do list. You want to make sure that you have reviewed my suggestions and comments and feedbacks from your initial essay. You've done the multiple choice portion, you've done the essay portion, and you've checked in with me about each of those things. And then also, we've done practice test FPT7, which is the very last item on the introduction unit. So that, again, is going to have 2 parts, a multiple choice and the essay. And if you haven't done that already, then that is something that you would want to focus on completing as well. Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Veronica.
Oh. Could you send me the essay you write to my email, because for watch the essay more carefully?
Absolutely, I'll be happy to do that.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Are there any other questions?
Yes, the practice that you sent me, then I did in the essay also. Did you get it?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so the multiple choice thing, so I got 15. I missed 10.
Okay, I'll make note of that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Were there any other questions specifically about the essay that you would like for me to address? Okay, well, then let me just say this before moving on. I want to reiterate that that essay, remember, that we looked at, that was just so beautiful and amazing and magnificent and nice polished final product, that was from each, little parts of that were from each of the essays that you've submitted to me. So good for you all. There were, you guys you're doing a good job, And I think that that speaks volumes to where you're at, because I was able to pull elements from each of the essays that you sent to me to put together one cohesive one that was such high quality. I think that if you haven't already, then you should make sure to give yourself a pat on the back for that. Okay, so no more questions about the essay then.